The creature lies pressed against the stone as if born from it, her body stretched low and tense along the cliff's edge. The rock beneath her is rough, fractured, stained with the muted colors of age, and her weight seems to merge with it, as though she has waited there long enough to become part of the landscape itself. Her lion's body is coiled, muscles taut but still, the posture of something that does not need to move to dominate. Only her face rises above the stone, framed by shadows and earth-toned light, eyes fixed forward with an intensity that feels disturbingly human. They do not glare, they do not roar, they watch. The gaze is patient, assessing, unblinking, as if time means nothing to her. Below her, the ground falls away into a barren, broken expanse, and the air around her feels heavy, suspended, charged with the sense that something irreversible will happen the moment a step is taken too close. The colors of the scene are restrained, almost suffocating in their earthiness. Ochres, browns, dull golds, and bruised grays dominate the canvas, giving the impression of a world stripped of softness. Light does not descend from the sky in divine clarity. It seeps in sideways, touching the stone and the creature's body in uneven strokes. Her face, pale against the darker mass of her form, feels unnervingly exposed, as though it has been pushed forward to confront the viewer directly. There is no background distraction, no comforting horizon. The landscape closes in, directing all attention toward her stillness, her waiting, her certainty. This is not a moment of attack. It is the moment before inevitability. This painting was created in 1887 by Georg von Rosen, a Swedish artist working within a late 19th century European world, fascinated by myth, symbolism, and the darker undercurrents of the human psyche. Rosen lived in a period when faith in progress and reason coexisted uneasily with a growing awareness of existential dread. Ancient myths returned not as decorative stories, but as psychological tools, ways to explore fear, power, and the limits of human understanding. Rosen's work often engaged with these themes, drawing from classical sources while infusing them with a modern sense of unease. His Sphinx is not an archaeological fantasy or a romanticized relic of antiquity. It is something closer, heavier, more intimate, an ancient terror reimagined for a world increasingly aware of its own fragility. The source of this figure reaches back into Greek myth, where the Sphinx is not a guardian of wisdom but a merciless executioner. She waits along the road to Thebes, confronting travelers with a riddle that determines their fate. Those who fail to answer correctly are not spared. They are killed and devoured, their bodies erased as completely as their ignorance. Knowledge, in this myth, is not enlightenment. It is survival. The Sphinx represents a threshold that cannot be bypassed, a test that allows no second attempt. She does not chase her victims. She does not need to. She simply waits, certain that most who encounter her will fall. Rosen's interpretation strips the myth of spectacle and violence, focusing instead on anticipation. The killing is absent, yet its presence is felt everywhere. The Sphinx's body is angled downward, her claws gripping the rock as if already anchored to the fate below. Her human face is calm, almost indifferent, suggesting that death is not an act of cruelty for her, but a function, an inevitability. The riddle itself is invisible, yet it permeates the scene like an unspoken question hanging in the air. The viewer becomes the traveler, drawn into the psychological space where the challenge exists before it is even spoken. Every element of the painting reinforces this tension. The rock formation elevates her above the ground, establishing dominance without exaggeration. She does not need wings or dramatic motion to assert power. Her stillness is enough. The fusion of woman and lion is not presented as grotesque, but as disturbingly coherent, suggesting that intellect and brute force coexist seamlessly within her. The eyes, steady, penetrating, are the true center of gravity. They do not reflect emotion, they reflect certainty, This is a being that does not doubt, does not hesitate, and does not explain herself. On a symbolic level, the Sphinx becomes more than a mythological monster. She is the embodiment of fear that cannot be outrun, the question that cannot be ignored. Her femininity, rendered through a human face rather than an eroticized form, adds to the discomfort. She is neither nurturing nor seductive. She is judgment. Her body, grounded and animal, speaks of physical consequence, while her face speaks of intellectual confrontation. To meet her is to be tested both mentally and existentially, to face the reality that ignorance is not neutral. It is fatal. The broader human themes embedded in the painting are difficult to escape. Power here is silent, not performative. Fear is not chaotic, but controlled. Destiny feels immovable, embedded in the stone itself. The Sphinx does not represent evil in the theatrical sense. She represents the universe's indifference to human unpreparedness. She waits because she can. She kills because she must. And the traveler, unseen but implied, exists only as potential failure. When Rosen exhibited this work, it unsettled viewers who expected either romantic heroism or archaeological fantasy. Instead, they were confronted with something colder and more psychological. This was not a story of triumph, but of inevitability. Some saw the painting as oppressive, even cruel, its scale overwhelming, its mood unrelenting. Others recognized in it a reflection of their own era, a world in which traditional certainties were eroding, and survival increasingly depended on intellect, awareness, and the ability to confront uncomfortable truths. There is a detail in the painting that often goes unnoticed at first glance. The way the Sphinx's body aligns with the cliff itself, as though the stone has shaped her, not merely supported her. She does not appear placed there. She appears grown there. This subtle fusion suggests that she is not an intruder in the landscape, but its expression. She is what the world becomes when it is stripped of mercy. The cliff is not a stage. It is an extension of her presence. This makes the riddle she embodies feel less like a spoken challenge and more like a law of existence, something woven into the fabric of reality itself. Seen through this lens, the Sphinx becomes a mirror held up to humanity's deepest anxieties. She represents the moments when life presents a question that cannot be delayed, negotiated, or softened. The test may come as loss, moral choice, self-knowledge, or confrontation with mortality. Like the traveler in the myth, we often approach these moments believing we can turn back if the answer does not come. The Sphinx offers no such comfort. To stand before her is already to be committed. The psychological weight of the painting deepens when one considers the absence of action. Nothing is happening, and yet everything is about to. This suspended moment forces the viewer into a state of anticipation that mirrors anxiety itself. The mind fills the silence with imagined outcomes. Will the answer come? Will it be enough? Rosen does not show the victim because the victim is not important. What matters is the threshold, the moment of reckoning. The painting becomes less about death and more about the terror of not knowing whether one is prepared. In the late 19th century, such imagery resonated with a society grappling with rapid change. Science was reshaping understanding of the world, traditional belief systems were under strain, and the individual was increasingly responsible for constructing meaning in a universe that offered no guarantees. The Sphinx, in this context, becomes an existential figure. She asks not a literal riddle, but a psychological one. What do you know, and what are you willing to face? Those who misunderstood the painting as mere myth missed its deeper unease. This was not nostalgia for ancient Greece. It was a warning disguised as legend. What makes Rosen's Sphinx particularly haunting is her lack of cruelty. There is no sadism in her gaze, no pleasure in her dominance. She does not delight in death. She enforces it. This transforms the moral structure of the scene. The danger does not come from malice, but from indifference. Failure is not punished. It is simply followed by consequence. In this way, the painting speaks directly to modern fears, where systems, institutions, and forces larger than the individual operate without hatred or mercy, indifferent to those who fall beneath them. The final insight lies in the Sphinx's stillness. In a world obsessed with movement, progress, and action, she achieves absolute control through immobility. She does not chase meaning. Meaning comes to her. This inversion is deeply unsettling. It suggests that the greatest dangers are not always loud or aggressive, but quiet, patient, and unyielding. The painting implies that waiting can be a form of power, and that knowledge delayed can become knowledge denied. As the viewer steps away from the canvas, the image does not release its grip easily. The Sphinx remains in the mind, not as a monster, but as a presence, an unresolved question that continues to watch. She reminds us that life does not always offer clarity before consequence, that some thresholds allow no rehearsal, no retreat. In a world that often promises endless chances, the Sphinx stands as a stark contradiction. She waits in silence, carved into stone and shadow, her gaze steady, her body unmoving. And in that stillness, she asks nothing aloud. The question is already there, embedded in the world, waiting for us to realize that we are standing before it, and that the answer, whatever it may be, will define what remains.